I got some more nonsense for you. Did you see the news today about Donald Trump's idea for a missile defense system he's calling the Golden Dome? This Golden Dome would cost he says it will cost $175 billion. Although the Congressional Budget Office said it would likely cost far more, as much as $542 billion. This is for a missile defense system for a country that's never had a missile sent to us. Most likely trying to target nuclear missiles that would be coming this way. And yet, the biggest opportunity for us to have nuclear missiles sent to us would be if our president provokes a country that has nuclear missiles. He just used Doge to eliminate tens of thousands of jobs. He's making every effort to cut Medicaid for the poorest Americans. And now he's going to try and build a $542 billion missile defense system. Make it make sense, please. So, one thing that has me really upset is this. When Cory Booker did his 25-hour display, his stunt, his filibuster, he wasn't actually filibustering anything, but he stood on the floor of the Senate and spoke continuously, taking time to answer questions and just proselytizing for 25 hours, speaking about those things that people like me feel about what's happening with our government. He built up an unbelievable amount of capital during that 24 hours. When it was over, I was blown away by what I saw. And I made it a point to go onto social media and proclaim how proud I was of him and how he had already now earned my vote for the presidency in 2028. And then today he had the opportunity to cast a no vote in a nomination for a secretary position in our government for Jared Kushner's father. And he said yes. He voted to allow Trump's Project 2025 agenda to move forward. And I just don't understand why. And there is a lot of outrage online right now. If you're in Dem spaces, progressive spaces, anti-MAGA spaces on social media and even Substack and YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else, people are outraged, rightfully so. You know, what he did goes against everything he proclaimed he was standing up for a few weeks ago when he stood on the Senate floor and he talked for 25 hours and then went and did all of the mainstream media appearances, Rachel Maddow and CNN and all those things. And he talked about why he was up there and how important it was for us to say no more. It's time to stop this nonsense and stand up to this dictator wannabe. And then he goes and passes a vote for the secretary. It's insane to me. None of it makes any sense at all. And I don't know how to make it make sense. I went from being ready to vote for this man for president to now just being confused. I'm not saying he's done. You know, I'm not done with him. He's clearly still on the right side of politics, but like I don't understand what his thinking was. Just makes absolutely no sense to me. Somebody explain it to me. I don't know. Whatever. All right, here's another thing I want to talk about. It seems like, and I don't know when this started, but I believe it probably started sometime during COVID, maybe before COVID, where it seemed like anytime anything happened online, anytime new information came out about just about any subject, a corner of the internet or a group of your social media friends suddenly became experts on whatever that thing was. We're seeing it right now with the Biden diagnosis with his cancer. So we won't even get into the stage 9 debacle that's going on. But so in case you're under a rock, our former president, Joe Biden, was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It's prostate cancer. It's prostate cancer that is metastasized to his bones. So when you get a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Stage 4 is when the cancer has metastasized and then joined a different organ. In this case, it's in his bones. And so there has been this controversy and this conspiracy theory over the last few days since the announcement that, along with dementia, he was hiding the fact that he had this cancer for quite a period of time from the American people. And of course, Republicans, mostly MAGA conservatives, have been out there, pounding the walls that, this is a clear indication that he should have never been in office. He should have stepped aside sooner. And, I want to pump the brakes on this stuff because, we're all guilty of it. But the Dunning-Kruger effect, and if you're not familiar with what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, let me actually pull this up here real quick for you. The Dunning-Kruger effect, right here. Let's take a look at this. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias where individuals with low competence in a particular area tend to overestimate their abilities, while those with high competence may underestimate their reflective expertise. Dumbing it down for you. You know nothing about cancer, yet you're going to go on the internet and proclaim that you know exactly how stage 4 cancer works. Never mind the fact that our confounded president called it stage 9 cancer. What he's actually talking about is a specific staging process for prostate cancers that go up. And stage 9 is the stage in which, not stage 9, level 9, I think it is where Joe Biden's prostate cancer is. But, when I say pump the brakes, what I mean is we spend way too much time hating the other side instead of trying to figure out how to be good people together. And I know that sounds hippy-dippy and cliched, especially given the temperature of current politics. But, I was on TikTok the other day. I had made a video about a race that I was doing, and somebody called the other side evil. And, while I could make an argument that I don't believe evil exists at all, the reality is that in politics, especially national politics, it's very easy to assume the worst because somebody thinks differently than you. And in reality, a lot of the, federal policies, government policies that the opposition may take could have profound effects on your lives. But please remember that perspective, and in this case with Joe Biden and his cancer diagnosis, perspective is very, very uniquely to you. Your perspective is your own. I don't necessarily share your perspective. We may even agree on a lot of things and then disagree on one thing that is vitally important to you. But then you pull the trigger and call it evil. I mean, it's something we shouldn't be doing in general. It's dangerous. And, I do worry sometimes about the effect that has on us when it comes to national discourse, specifically in politics. I don't like to call the other side evil. I do think there's some evil people out there. The more this current regime leans into their fascism and tries to do things like suspend habeas corpus and put, innocent men in an El Salvador prison, it's hard to not say that's evil. But just because somebody in Congress disagrees on gay marriage or disagrees on trans rights does not inherently make them evil. And I think we all need to be careful about that. All right, let's see what else we got. So, something kind of sad today. I read it earlier, and it was weird because here it is. I read that George Wendt died. Norm from Cheers. Anybody in my age group, anybody that's Gen X for sure, it would have been hard to grow up in the 80s, 70s, and 80s without watching Cheers. Ted Danson and the bunch. But George Wendt played a character called Norm. He was the regular when you walked into Cheers, which is based, for those that don't know, it was a bar based in Boston, I believe. TV show in the 80s on NBC, I believe, on Thursday nights. If memory recalls, I'm getting a little old now, but I'm pretty sure that's when it was. But he would always walk in, everybody would yell, Norm, and that was the thing. He would sit down, his beer would already be poured by Sam Malone, played by Ted Danson. And he had his sidekick that was always there. What was his name? Oh, I don't know if that's in here. John Ratzenberger played him, and I can't remember his character's name. Comment below if you remember what his name is. But John Ratzenberger obviously went on to Pixar fame. He plays at least one character in every single Pixar movie that's made. It's fascinating to this day. But yeah, George Wendt dying is kind of a sad thing. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, as I get older, it seems fairly regular that somebody that was influential in my childhood or early adulthood passes on. And it's an unfortunate reality of life that, you know, I'm being forced to come to terms with. I'm lucky enough that I've only said goodbye to a couple of friends in my life. I mean, a handful, we'll say. Have both my parents still. My wife has both of her parents still. But it's tough, you know, when somebody that was an indelible part of our lives that we watched on TV every single week, and we felt like, even though we knew the character, we felt like we knew the actor, you know, even though you don't really know much about him. But it's always sad to see him go. So rest in peace, George Wendt. It's a shame. He was 76 years old. Yeah, it's a shame. Rest in peace, man.